Okay, so now thank you guys for continuing with this little module series of the Next Forex Pro ICT trading. And so now we're going to be going over entry techniques. So by now you've already learned how to plot your time sessions, how to plot liquidity pools where there could be liquidity resting, and when the market takes out levels. And so you'll want to be trading on the opposite direction. So if we take out buy stops in liquidity area, then you'll want to be selling. Okay. The next step is looking for entry techniques, and this is why it's important to see ICT course, because this is where he goes over the entry technique. The only thing I'm going to show you is a little bit more methodical approach, where I know ICT goes over this very, very clearly, but for those of you that just sometimes need extra confirmation, if sometimes you'll see something in the market and you'll be like, does this really fit the criteria? Now, even if I show you examples, you might still be questioning sometimes, and I understand that feeling, because we've kind of all been there, where our brains will think of something and we'll be like, that kind of looks like the setup, but we're not sure still, and we want to be sure. And so hopefully I can clear the air there and kind of give you guys a little bit of a better idea of what I look for personally, right? Because there's obviously a lot of other traders in the ICT community that trade this exact same setup. It can look different, because it does look different, right? I just found something that works best for me, and what others have doing doesn't mean that it's not going to work for them, because it can work. It's just this is a little bit more confirmation. So let's get to it. So this one here was an area. This is an ICT setup. This is where the market came up, we came down, and then we broke up, right? We took out buy stops, and then we came right back down, took out sell stops. We rallied into the fair value gap that ICT talks about, right? And then we came right back down, and that's exactly the setup. It's exactly the setup that ICT talks about. So keep in mind, if you guys have seen episode 6, this is exactly where ICT goes in here, and he talks about the bearish market structure shift, and he also goes over the bullish market structure shift, which is pretty much the opposite. And I'll just fast forward here. And so when he talks about displacement, he always talks about that it has to be a fast moving candle, really, a candle that you can really see it move in a directional area. Obviously with this particular setup. Now with what we're looking at here, it looks exactly like this one, right? And so that's the one that we're going over right now. It's exactly like this one. And so when he says, do we have displacement here? Yes, we do. Right there. Boom. We have two nice strong candles pointing to the downside, or going to the downside, excuse me. And so that's my number one rule. As soon as we break out from here, from this area here, as soon as this breaks buy stops, the way it moves downwards, how many candles are there? Now for me, my requirement is at least 3 candles. Do we have at least 3 candles from the high here where it breaks to the low here where it breaks this low? And do we have that here? We have 1, 2. Is that more than 3? 100% it is, right? So this is 100% the setup, right? Now, where do you get in? At the 50%. Okay. Where do you draw the Fibonacci line? From the top to the low of when it begins to retrace back the other way, so that you can get in. This takes a little bit of practice, but at least you got one clue, which is, there is no question about displacement. Meaning, if you see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles that break here and then break here, that means you don't take the trade, even if it does work out. Why? Because we want to be more specific. We want to pick and choose the best winners, or the best setups. And even if you get it wrong, and you just, for whatever reason your analysis wasn't correct, which I doubt, because many times when this specific setup happens, it freaking works. So don't, don't burn this bridge until you try it, right? So that, once again, right, this is just my own technique. 3 candles, that's all you need to see. 3 strong candles just like this. 1, 2, 3. Now, you don't exactly need 3 candles, you just need at least 3 candles that break the high and break the low. Or excuse me, from the high to the low, at least 3 candles just like this. So obviously here you had 1, 2, 3, and then this was a 4th one. What I want to see is the last 3 candles. So this is the last candle, right? There's 1, 2, and then 3 that broke through. Eventually you'll begin to see this a lot more easier, because then you'll start counting like 1, 2, do you start counting from here or from here or from here? Like, it just, as long as it's the very last candle where it completely broke down here, just like this one, that's where you start counting. Okay, 1, 2, and then that's it. 2 candles. It took 2 candles to break through. Obviously I don't count this candle because it had already broken through. My only requirement is that you need at least 3 candles that break through. As there's been times where just only 1 candle breaks through, and that's all you need, right? And so here's another example I'll show you guys. Let's go ahead and pull this one up. Let me see here. Here's a very good one, by the way. So here's, in this example, it broke. It went down, it went up, it broke through here. It broke what? Sell stops, right? Sell liquidity. It broke above into what? Buy stops, right? And then it created what? Here's 1 candle here, 2, 3. That's all I need. As long as there's within those 3 candles that it breaks above and it closes above, then you're good to go. All right, so keep that in mind. 1, 2, 3, at least 3 candles that it breaks above. That is all you need. All these other candles are irrelevant. Okay, we just need, the next thing we need is, when is a market turning around? Here it created this, here it turned around. So then I apply my fib quickly, and then I go ahead and I get ready to get in at the 50%, or 1 pip above the 50%. That way I can get in and be able to take the trade. As you can see, this was a nice little winner here. But anyways, that is the entry. Okay, so keep that in mind. Very simple, and like I said, this is why it's important that you guys go through ICT mentorship already, because then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So right after the market takes out a liquidity pool, that's when you begin to check for this particular setup. And then, as you can see, let's go into the market structure for the bullish market structure shift, and it looks exactly like what I'm showing here, right there. Boom, 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 right? Same thing here, like that. There's the idea. Here's the fair value gap, displacement, right? Same thing here. Very strong candles. 1, 2, 3. That is the only requirement I need that needs to break above in order to create a bullish market structure shift in this example, because we're buying, and that's it. That is all you need. Here's the FEG that ICT talks about. You buy it, boom, right? Here's the buy stops where the market went in. That's target. Okay, and so that's it. This is the entry technique. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's super simple. There's no need to overcomplicate this. And that's it. It'll always, just keep in mind though, it'll always be very similar. It'll always look the same. Now obviously, like I mentioned, there's going to be different variations where there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles sometimes. That's not my setup, right? That's not what I don't take those. So if you're watching this, I wouldn't expect you to take those either. So keep that in mind, right? 3 or less candles is all you need, okay, to see a valid A-type setup. All right. Hope this helps, and until the next little module. See you guys soon.